Havana's landscape has changed in the last months. A growing private market substitutes former state-managed business. Young generations go to that sector because it's more profitable. Today we will meet an engineer who has opened a business of his own, but he does more than that. He also works at the Antonio Núñez Jiménez Foundation of Nature and Humanity. Josiel Marrero is also an entrepreneur. He divides his time between the restaurant that he recently opened and his job here. You are an environmental engineer.
Yes.
That's weird in Cuba.
Not weird. It's because in Cuba, in the educational system, they are not these specialists in universities. But I studied first in Soviet Union, in the former Soviet Union. After I finished my specialty, and here in Technical University of Havana, I'm chemical engineer, and all my postgraduate studies in the United States and Germany was an environmental engineer. Is because of that.
And why do you work here? Antonio Núñez Jiménez Foundation for Men and Nature and Humanity. That's a name is like a referent in your life.
Yes, Antonio Núñez Jiménez is a reference in my life and in for all scientific and all person of culture in Cuba, because I always says that he was one of the last encyclopedists, if that word is possible, but something like that. I think that people will understand. It's a man that he write about a lot of things. He studied all Cuba. He's considering the fourth founder of Cuba, the fourth person that more study about Cuban geography, Cuban culture. He studied and he wrote almost about everything about Cuba.
And you told me before that one of the main inspirations that you've had in order to keep this kind of job is Almendares River, which is a landscape here in Havana.
Yes, Almendares River was just the natural research in Havana that inspired me first to continue working and study in Cuba. Because of the river, Almendares River, and the project of Havana Metropolitan Park is because I decided to stay in Cuba. Not because, a decision, it's because I just was involved a lot on all the things on urban, environmental, social things in Havana. Havana is an amazing city. And in that moment, I met with my first meeting with Antonio Núñez Jiménez, and he just inoculates in my body the spirit of continuous working by the environment, by geography, and by all the good things in Cuba, in Havana. And it's because of that I continue working on that, and already now in the foundation that he created 20 years ago.
A very interesting foundation, Josiel. I would like to know more.
Okay.
Would you show me more?
Let's go.
There's a perception, Josiel, that in Cuba we don't have NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and this foundation is an NGO.
Yes, this institution is an NGO. In Cuba, I know that there are some people that think abroad that they are not, in Cuba they are not a civil society. But in Cuba they are a very strong civil society. And in this civil society there are a lot of NGOs. There are different kind of NGOs, and there are 7 foundations of different topics, working on different topics, cultural, environmental. And this institution is an NGO working on cultural, social, environmental projects everywhere in Cuba, in different provinces. This institution, Antonio Núñez Jiménez Foundation of Nature and Humanity, have different representation in other 8 provinces, and a lot of projects working with young people, with agroecologic, and with different projects that really it's very good to be participating in the process of the development of Cuban society.
You like this job?
I like a lot the job. I like a lot to continue the legacy of Antonio Núñez Jiménez. I like a lot be participating all the time in the different social, cultural, environmental project in Havana and in other part of Cuba. I like it's a way to be involved on really actions that will keep safe the future development of Cuban society.
Nevertheless, you started like a new adventure, Josiel, a business on your own. There are a lot of professionals and young people here in Cuba that are opening a new business. I can't even pronounce the name because it's in Russian. What's
Yeah,
the name of the new business?
Nazdarovie.
What
Nazdarovie.
does that mean?
Nazdarovie is health. It's toast. It's the phrase that you mentioned when you made a toast. You know,
Why did you decide to open your own business? Even
it's
though you like your job here.
yeah, really it's a long history. You know, I studied in Soviet Union. I always say that I'm a mix of different cultures and different educational
Ideologies?
support. No ideology. It's the ideology for me. It's be part. It's a tribute to all people and all philosophy that in the way of your life you are getting.
But studying there formed you in a way,
Yes,
in that context.
of course, of course. I studied in Soviet Union, like I told you. I finished my specialty here in Havana, in Havana Technical University, and after all my postgraduate studies were in Germany and in United States. And of course, all those mix of topics, mix of action and places. It's what I'm already now, what I am already now, and this idea is because a group of friends we think that the legacy of the former Soviet Union in Cuba is very big, and there are not enough tributes, enough actions to demonstrate or to show this influence that we have in our culture, in our country, because of the more than 30 years, almost 40 years of relation with the former Soviet Union.
Strong relations.
Yes.
So why did you open your business?
It's a long and nice history. We are three partners, and we are people that always have been talking about that, how to tribute, how to demonstrate, and try to have a place where all the food, culture, the aesthetic of the former Soviet Union, you could go there and see and feel this sense, no? Feel all the atmosphere, the spirit of the former Soviet Union. We say, okay, now you can open a restaurants, and we decided to open that restaurant. But we don't want what we plan, you know, it's a plan. It's not only a business, it's not only a restaurant, it's like a cultural project, because we are working with all the former Russian, Ukrainian, the former Soviet women that come here in the way of love, because they got in love of Cubans 20, 30 years ago, and right now all those women change 100% their culture, change everything, just to come here, live here, and create a family here.
Because of love.
Because of love. It's very hard, you know. And now we are those a lot of those women are working in the restaurants for all the people that want to carry out the nostalgia and carry out all the good things that they have inside, and all the good memories at the time that a lot of Cubans that study there in Soviet Union, and all the tourism or the things create a place to talk about Soviet Union, to increase the knowledge that they are about the Soviet influence in Cuba. You have to see. You want to come?
Oh, please. It will be a pleasure.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go. He told me that he would drive through a different way. He wanted me to see one of his passions, the Almendares River.
We changed the way back to the restaurants because I wanted to show you what I normally call the way of my life. And it's the way crossing the Havana Metropolitan Park and Almendares River in its last 10 kilometers. This way and this river, it's a very important part of my life because they contributed of my development like a citizen, like professional, like person in Cuba, and it was the place where I learned a lot from the community and from the natures. All those things that I did here was the actions that I developed, and it's because of that I stay in Cuba at that time. Like I told you, it's the center of my life. Right now I work on Almendares, I work on Antonio Núñez Jiménez Foundation. I continue with other private and small cultural, social cultural projects, but Almendares River, Havana Metropolitan Park, the urban development, the local development of this area, it's really my life. We are crossing the Almendares, the stone bridge of Almendares River, that is the nicer bridge in Cuba. Is because of that, this smell, because of that, this landscape, it's because of that I continue living and working in Cuba.
Will we find it too crowded at this time? It's 4 o'clock.
No, it's right now we are in the middle of time between lunchtime and diner time. We are preparing for a new client that should to come for diner. It's really the only possibility that we can be talking and you can appreciate the place and everything
A lot of
here.
Soviet cultural motifs.
Yes, it's one of the objectives of this place here. It's a tribute for all the Soviet culture.
And this table has to do with that?
It's because of normally at the time of Soviet Union, people like to eat together, no? All the time, and we want just to have all the remembrance, all the memories about Soviet time.
All these Russian motifs, it has created like an influence in you, right?
Yes, of course. Not only the Russian motive, it's all the Russian and Soviet culture, because you know Soviet it's a lot of republics, and all the aesthetic, all the philosophy, the way of work that they just inoculate in us, all the Cuban students that have spent 5-6 years studying there. Really, we change our life. And right now in the restaurants, this place is just to tribute all those years, all those knowledge, all those sense of be working and be hard developers of good things.
It's interesting. I think all this experience of the restaurant that that you are developing right now, the motives and the nostalgia that you show with this kind of restaurant. Was it hard to start it? I mean, the business?
Yes, it's hard because, you know, here in Cuba, one of the nicer things that Cuba have is that everything is difficult, but everything is possible. You know, look like everything is possible, but everything is very difficult. And just to that it's in one thing, have all the resources, have ready all the ideas, and we are three partners, and try to connect and to get an agreement between three people in Cuba is something difficult too. And what we want is just try that everybody know a new place with a new food, with a new sense of things. And not it's only a business, it's a cultural project too, because it's tributes to Soviet culture and try to recognize the Soviet influence in Cuba already now that still we have, you know.
Which were the main obstacles that you had to deal with in order to develop? I mean, politically speaking, all that has to do with the business, to develop this kind of business. Which were the main obstacles?
No, the thing is that the more obstacles and difficulties, it's mainly all the products that we need to serve the kind of food that we want to serve, and the quality, and convince a lot of people that it's a good business, that it's a business that Cuba need. Cuba need Soviet restaurants, but more than Soviet restaurants, it's a place like a meeting point for all the students that studied a lot of years in Soviet Union.
We're now living in Cuba. A lot of changes,
Yes.
different changes,
Yes.
politically speaking, and also in the economical way. And the landscape of the city has changed in a way, because there are a lot of these private restaurants now, but there are people that think, Josiel, that there are too many business like this and not enough demand. What do you think?
No, like everywhere, of course, always there. You have to make an analysis of the demand, but everything concerned to what the design of the product that you want to begin in, and this we thought that it's a very important product. It's just a little bit using the nostalgia, but it's good food and with a good subject. It's good subject and a good objective.
Do you think there is, you talked about how hard it was for you to get the food that then you cook here and then you sell. That has to do with the problem that a lot of private little business like this have, because there's not a big market that in which you can buy this kind of things, so you have to find solutions. But do you think there's a real willingness of the government to see this kind of business developed?
It's hard to answer because look like the government it's have a big commitment and they won because they approve all the law and all the structures. They create all the structure in order that those ideas develop a lot. But sometimes it's not even the develop of creation new markets and new product to sell. The agricultural production is not increasing, and it's difficult to begin it, that kind of business. But I think that it's one way to save, to get save the economic, the Cuban economy. It's very important, and we always are involved. And we have to be more involved, like people, the Cuban people, in the Cuban economy, because until now, just everything developed the government, not the people. The people have not concern of what it's going, how is going the economy, the Cuban economy. And now I feel there are the possibility to participate a little bit more. And this process should be continued. The government should give us the possibility to participate more on a social, economical decision in the country, to real participate in the developed process of the country.
Which reforms do you think are necessary to make this kind of business more easily to develop, to have?
There are a lot, mainly some financial reforms. Still, they are not enough. All the credit, all the bank, tramit, all the things. People need a place to go, an institution to go and ask for credit, because all Cuban now are all the investment that they are doing. It's asking money abroad, and some friends, some relative that is sending money to made an inversion here in Cuba. But there is one very important thing, and it's a challenge that, of course, Cuba should organize with all the outputs, all the outcomes that have been obtained in Cuba in the last 40, 50 years, combining with some updated technologies for create business and to be carry out process of capacity building to prepare people to develop those kind of business. Still, there are not enough knowledge on how to run a business, and that is a problem for future.
But eventually, do you think this kind of private business will substitute what's being managed by the state?
Yes, I think that is the way. The states have to eliminate the threat that the state normally have of how private business will substitute all the things that the states develop. But I think that they already now released that it's impossible to continue running all these small, medium scale business. They have to just to give to private sector all these small business and just control the other things that have not contradiction with the socialism and the good subject of the revolution.
I have a question. Probably, I don't want to put you in an ideologically problem, but I think if you read this situation, some people could interpret this kind of situation like a contradiction. I mean, you have a nostalgia for a country that developed communism, the property of the people. And now there are people that are interpreting this kind of experiences here in Cuba like the coming back of capitalism. It looks like a contradiction.
No, there are two things, and we have to be very clear of that. The Soviet time, for us, we have nostalgia, we have memories, because all the aesthetic, all the cultural, all the social outcomes that that time was a lot of good things. At the end, like a lot of things in history, was not the end was not good because of a lot of things that we'll not be talking about that. But all the culture, the food, the poetry, the education, everything was very good. Independent on what ideologically of the system at the end work or not work. And now, one of the challenges that the Cuban government have, it's determine which economical and social model we will like, we are working for. And in the point that we are now together, it's that, of course, we are celebrating all the good things that were created on Soviet time.
And the results, like professionals like you.
And all the results. We are one of the best professional people that study at that time. They are distributed abroad for all the world in different university, researching institute, and they are first level professionals.
And the Cuban scientists development has to do with that.
Of course, and we are in these projects of Nazdarovia restaurants, peace and friendship. It's like a meeting points, a meeting ideas to celebrate all the good things that in both sides in some moment of the history have been created and have been developing. And it's what we are trying, it's the feeling of those times.
I would like to talk about something a little bit different that has to do with the fact that a lot of professionals here in Cuba, engineers, doctors, people from different careers, decides to work in this kind of places, private places, or create one if they have the means, which is not easy. Why do you think is that happening? There's like a movement from the public sector to the private sector, which is growing, and sometimes creates like a worry inside the government because of how many professionals are going from one point to the other. What do you think about this?
No, it's normal that the government is worried about that because it's a process that is happening in very high level. But the government, and they are doing something about that. They have to change the condition and the salaries and the access of wellness, that prosperity. Right now, the government is put it on some sign, revolutionary sign and things, the wellness, the prosperity. But of course, it's normal that people try to find the place where he better work and where receive more money, more salary, and it's normally that if in private sector they feel better, they feel with more the remuneration of for their works is better. Of course, they have to go there. It's the same process to go out of Cuba. It's normal, and we are an island. Always, in all time of our nation, it's normal to go out to try to find the best place where you work and live. But of course, the government have to be convinced that they have to change a lot of things in order that work for public sector, it's good. It's a way to receive a good remuneration and to feel happy to be working for the government. If not, they will go to other place.
I really like your restaurant, Josiel.
Thank
And
you.
even though we had to,
Not it's only my restaurants. It's very important. We are partners. We are three partners.
no, I imagine that you wouldn't be able to do it yourself.
Yeah. We are a lot. It's a lot of ideas and time and money, the inversion in the restaurants, and just we are thinking on that all the time.
But it's beautiful. We talked about the stairs. It's a third floor, but there's an advantage of these stairs that you have to go up.
Yes.
Would you show me the advantage? But you have, I think, one of the best views of Havana City here.
We'll see. You will see.
Let's
It's
go
true.
and watch it.
Let's
Please.
go.
Let's go.
Amen. Right now, the government, in Plan Malecón, it's preparing the exterior of the building. It's because of that it's a little bit not ready to receive clients right now.
But
But-
it's such a beautiful view.
It's very beautiful. It's just everything in one point.
There are a lot of figures, Josiel, that says that a lot of young people go away to United States, to Spain. Do you think that the possibility of developing this kind of business will stop this kind of immigration?
It's a possibility, but it's a possibility that need to convert that it's a real carry out all the action that young people want to participate more. The young people want to be involved in social, economical organization of the country. That is one thing, but the government have to change. And other things, all different elements in the economical and social life in order that young people be more involved on Cuban decision.
But Havana, even though you're developing a Soviet restaurant, Havana is always in your life, right?
Yes, Soviet restaurants is the result to be doing a lot of things to create happiness, to create wellness, to be involved in good things and in nice things in a way. The nature, the environment, and all the good things in some country, this place is like the result of those proposals.
Thank you very much, Josiel. It's been a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Christina.
It's been a pleasure.